As the debate over the need for establishment of state police in Nigeria continues to gain momentum due to rising insecurity across the country, it appears some headway will soon be made. At last week's National Economic Council NEC meeting, an overwhelming majority of state governors supported the move, acknowledging that local policing could be a game changer in tackling the country's escalating security challenges. Speaking after the meeting, the governor of Kaduna State, Uba Sani, noted that further deliberation will continue at the next council meeting because they need to come up with a report on the issue. Let's share the story by TVC News Femi Akonde with you.
The National Economic Council also urged state governments to key into the programs of the Presidential Food Systems Coordinating Unit in a bid to address the challenges militating against food security and their underlying causes.
The wet season harvest has been good, and prices are stabilizing and even coming down in some parts. So it is in an effort to build on the current successes and the current...
All right, Mayor, let me start with you. This looks like a widespread consensus, right?
Yes, and I'm happy that I've been an advocate of state police. If you claim we are practicing federalism, it's one of the things that you should have. When you go to America, there are all different kinds of police. So it should not be a federal police. If you say the governor is the chief security officer of a state, it should be in charge of the state when it comes to security, which is not, because when you still come to our police, we still use the unitary system where order comes from the Inspector General of Police in Abuja. So I agree that it's important for us in this our fight against insecurity to have state police, because every crime is local. And when you have somebody from a particular catchment area in charge of policing in that area, it's more effective because he understands the people. He understands how to intelligence gathering and all that. For example, if there's a crime in Ikeja, the police in Ikeja, it's so easy for them when the detectives want to get, if there's an armed robbery incident. What they just need to do is to go to Ikeja. There are people who control the streets, who control the crime in that street. When they drag them in and say, who are the guys that committed the robbery yesterday? They will say, oh, it's not us, so it's from people from Mushin. They'll go to Mushin and pulling the people controlling the streets there. The armed robbery in Ikeja, they say it's guys from Mushin that did it. They will say, oh yes, so it's some group. Where are they now? Oh, we don't know where they are, but one of them had gunshot wound, is being treated in one particular place. They go there, pick the guy. The guy will mention the other. So one person ran to his mother's place in Ibadan, and that one had gone to a place. So it's easy. That's what they do. So when you have a state police, you'll be able to do that on a larger scale, because we're on the state, we'll be able to control the police that will complement the federal police that we have now. So it makes more boots on ground, more funding, more knowledge of the area. So it will make fighting crime easier. So it's a no-brainer. What they should just need to do now is to work out the framework for having state police. For example, a state like Lagos, for example, having a state police will not be anything to them, because they have RS, which is like the special security arm of police that they fund. So they just need to expand it and get people from the state. Because if you have state police, majority of the policemen in that will be from that area. They have better knowledge of the area. It's easier for them to do things. And most importantly, if you remember during the time of Commissioner Edgar, there was one crisis in Ikorodu where some cult group used to kill people by breaking their head and all that. Edgar was able to solve that problem by getting in touch with the OPC and going into alliance with them, and the problem was solved because the OPC operatives, they live within the community. They know those people. The community know those people doing those things. Yes. You know, every community, they know those who are robbers, they know those who are clappers, they know those who are involved. Yes, who are into okay. Yes, every community will know. They may not say anything, but they know that this guy is a thief. We know him now. So if you have that, the OPC were able to work with Lagos State Police Command under Edgar, and they were able to solve that problem. So it is a welcome development. They should work out on the modalities and let us have it as quickly as possible.
All right, Adere, how much of a game changer is this?
This would be one of the major achievements since 1999, if we can achieve this. And I'm happy that gradually we are moving towards that. I think majority of the governors have agreed now, that, okay, it is time for state policing. The fear, we should not dismiss the fear of those who don't want state police. They are thinking that, they want to maintain the status quo, the funding, some of them are beneficiaries from the central boss, and also they raise this fear that it's going to lead to break up, and that one is rubbish. The fact of the matter is that Nigeria is overripe for state police. We should also not forget that there was nothing like Nigerian police before. The first police that was set up was Hausa Constabulary, that was 1820. Later they set up Niger Coast Constabulary for Calabar. Then later, Royal Niger Constabulary, 1888, for the North. It was not until 1914 that they merged the various police districts for administrative convenience. But in 1939, when Bodilon came at the governor, said, look, we need to organize federalism. And the Richardson Constitution in 1946 gave us federalism, and that we will now have regional police system. So people should realize that police, the governor will misuse them. Policing is not just about elections. It's also about culture, protecting the people's culture, protecting the people's forests, protecting the people's values, dealing with domestic violence, dealing with courtesan, which are local issues. Invasion of farmlands. So when you are just saying, election, police, the governors in Southwest, have they used Amotekun for election? Have they used Isba for election in the North? So it is time for us to realize that crime is local. And the principle of federalism, the founders of federalism recognizes this, that state police in the US that we are following, there are, state police, even some universities are policing. So when you now think that for my local government to have a policeman, we must go to Abuja. In my own community, in my own area, there was a conflict. They attacked one policeman from Edo State. You know what the police did? That was about 15 years ago. All the police stations in the whole 5 communities were withdrawn. No police station, as we are talking up to now, for giving order from Abuja. So policing is local. It is time for us to have state policing. If you don't have it, we will not be able to deal effectively with insecurity. So I say kudos, but we hope that, for the past 10 years, 15 years, we've been reading, state police, so nothing will happen again. We hope this one is not another gimmick.
Absolutely.
We are hoping that in the next 6 months, it should be able to, materialize.
All right, gentlemen, joining us via Zoom for more discussion on this issue is a security consultant, Chidi Omeje. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Welcome to Journalist Hangout on Sunday.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
Good afternoon to you.
My warm regards to my former contemporary in the University of Nigeria, Suka, Dewale Adeoye. I greet you, sir.
Yeah, nice to see you, Chidi Omeje.
All right, let's go straight into it. I mean, majority of state governors have supported the need for establishment of state police. Do you see this as a cause for jubilation or caution in the country?
Well, you see, I've been listening to you guys, and the excitement is there. Everybody thinks that this is the best thing to do, given the kind of security challenges we are confronting. But we need to be very cautious about this. We need to be very, very, very careful about it, because the things we see at the subnational level cause for concern. And I liken our governors as quote unquote, pardon my language, emperors. And if you put such state assets in the hands of these emperors, they are bound to misuse it. We have seen how even now that we have federal policing system, that they are still making use of this state assets to deal with opponents, to deal with people they perceive as political enemies and stuff in a way that are shocking. So you can imagine, therefore, when they have absolute control of such state assets as police.
I don't agree with you.
Even though we have this excitement, we believe that yes, indeed,
I will ask a question.
even the kind of. Are you
Please go ahead. Yes.
Right. So given the nature of internal security challenges we have, yes, one would say that there's a need for grassroots community kind of policing system, right? Very important. But we must be very cautious about how they'll be used by these emperors. Emperors. I continue making use of the word because their conduct, their activity, their actions that we've seen so far since 1999 points to the fact that if given that latitude, they will do terrible thing with state assets as police. So we have to, even though we all support state police, but attention must be paid to how they're going to be used. And I think that those who are going to fine-tune this, this process, if eventually it passes the National Assembly scrutiny, those who are going to come up with the minute details of this implementation will be very, very particular and intentional about how they're going to be used and appropriated by, some national governments. That's what I think for now.
The governors are to continue with meetings to come up with a report. How soon should this take in the face of daunting security challenges in the country?
Well, like Adiwale said, we didn't usually have a federal policing system. Before the advent of Nigeria Police Force as we know it, we had regional police structure. So I think that time has come for us to actually try our hands on this state policing system to see whether it would be, some kind of different ballgame. But I don't know whether it is possible for us to have what we call, something I could look at, say, is a trial period, say 6 months or a year, to see how it pans out. Otherwise, if you just dabble into that structure and give it some level of permanency, you might discover that you have used your hand to buy a gun that will, disarm you. So I'm very, very much concerned about how these guys will be used, how the government, this subnationals will use this police structure if we eventually arrive at that. But if that fear is allayed by way of the implementation strategies they're going to put down, then I'm good for it. So, but coming to your question, as soon as possible, so that we can try that, to see how we can run it on the situation across the states. Because every security challenge is local, and most times quite peculiar to the locality where it is happening. So you actually need, some level of knowledge, some level of appreciation of that environment to be able to drain in the situation. So that is the essence, that is the core reason of those who are asking for state police. But like I keep saying, the problem is in implementation. The problem is how they are going to be used by those that will be on the authority.
All right.
Yeah. Comrade Chidi Omeje, nice to see you again. You've raised some possible obstacles. Did you think there are solutions? For instance, in terms of what should be the character of that state police in terms of those that will run it, in a way that will make it at least largely independent?
I think that even if you call it state police, there has to be some kind of regional tone about it, so that, let's say, Southeast, for instance, should have a command where a kind of complementarity within that region, where they can complement each other in justice, not just justice system, but even in prosecution, even in investigation, even in implementing any policing system. So I'm looking at where there will be inputs from communities, from states, at communities level to local community level up to the states, then you aggregate it at the regional level. Because most the geopolitical zones we have, there's a commonality in terms of, there's some level of commonality in terms of way of life and stuff. So it becomes easier if there's a regional, cooperation in the state policing system, so that every region should have that level where they can meet, and then probably escalate to the federal if the crime is beyond the state prosecution. So it will take a whole lot of time for a lot of thoughts by those who are experts in this area to think through every bit of this implementation, every bit of its services, so that we will not at the end of the day regret why we even ventured into it.
Yeah, I can. This mayor here, I can understand your fears. That is what has been delaying state police, because people believe that the governors acting as emperors will use this state police maybe as instrument against opponents and all that. But for every event, there is always advantages and disadvantages. And when you look at the advantages of a state police and the fact that it could be misused, I think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. That is one. Two, we cannot say because now we have a federal police that is controlled federally, he has not changed anything. He's still part of it. It's the the state governors are not in charge of those police, and it has not really changed anything. The IG is the chief security officer. So if we now have state police and we start having regional command, then that means we don't have the state police, because in command structure, somebody has to be in charge. So in the state, the commissioner of police in the state should be in charge, answerable to the governor, who is the chief security officer of that state. And then the federal police will still be there, controlled by the Inspector General of Police as the height of that command structure. But don't you think that if we have a federal police and we have state police, and now we now have regional command structure, won't that create crisis?
Okay, let me clarify myself really. I think what I actually meant when I mentioned that regional thing is not in the command and control, bit of it. I'm talking about in terms of, cooperation. Because most times, look, I will always use Southeast where I come from, as an example. Aduala, you are the Southeast, where you school. You know that most of these states are actually, there's a close proximity. We don't have much land, and people can commit to come here, and within 10 minutes, within 20 minutes, they're over in the next state. So it is when you have that regional collaboration. It may not be at the point of command and control, but you have to have, have it in the statute book.
Okay, cooperation between the states.
There's a collaboration at this stages of this. So I really think that we have to consider that, because if you don't do that, we are going to have 36 police IGs. You're going to have, and we now have the federal. I don't know whether they're still going to return the federal police, but we are going to have 36 IGs. We're going to have 36 police headquarters and all that. And I think that there's a need for us to consider zonal cooperation that will be helpful to coordinate these things, to make sure that it becomes effective. I don't want us to have this state police for the sake of it. At the end of the day, you don't see results, because people can commit crime here and go over there, and then think they have some level of protection and all that. So I'm all for for us to sit down and check out the gray areas to make sure that we do not have any gap. If you allow gaps, then criminals they're always smarter than you. They will exploit those gaps. That's what I'm trying to say. But I agree with you most of what you said in terms of the fact that if you are going to replicate the command structure, the state, zonal, and then the federal, it's going to be some cumbersome. It's going to be very cumbersome. But I am looking at collaboration, partnership between states, contiguous states, so that you'll be able to have a seamless investigation, seamless prosecution, seamless coordination of security. Look at Amoteku, for instance, even though it's not it's a non-state actor, no state stuff. But look at Amoteku; they have been able to. There's some level of efficiency in what they do. You see Amoteku guys, especially in Ondo State, but they have that link with those ones in Ogun State, those ones in Ekiti State, those ones in so that's a seamless cooperation. That's what I'm looking at. You understand?
All right, comrade. Considering provisions in the Police Act and other regulations, what do you think should be done to ensure a smooth transition to state policing in the country?
That will be left for our legal, those in charge of the attorney generals of the world to come up with. But I think that we have to decide. Look, we are not going to reinvent wheels, for goodness sake. Most federations across the world have this state policing structure. For instance, United States, even Switzerland. These countries, they run state policing because they are federations. So we can actually take a template from them and see how the states cooperate with the federal, and see how different state police departments cooperate with each other to ensure that criminals do not, find any gap. So we are not going to reinvent any wheel. All we need to do is to study areas where it is working, and then we adapt same, and then of course fine-tune it to fit into our own, local realities. That's what I think.
All right. So yes, we're not seeing the idea of state police, and conversations are ongoing. But what is the advice to the federal government on lasting way to secure this country?
Look, we all know that security is everything. Security is the fulcrum upon which every developmental effort. If you don't get your security right, everything you are doing has to nothing. Look at Southeast, for instance. I always use that. ever since this phenomenon of non-gun men and sit at home and everything, productivity has come all-time low. Everything has tanked. Go to Northeast, for instance, you see how terrorism wreaked havoc. Go to Northwest and see how banditry wreaking havoc. Go to South, you see how the attacks on our maritime assets are bringing tension here and there. So the federal government must be quite intentional about our security issues. Now, the other day, the Chief of Defense Staff was on a TV channel, and he spoke about the fact that kinetic effort is not just what will solve the problem. And actually wrote an article myself, where I could share with some of you, where I say that the magic wand we need to solve the security challenges are not actually our military operations. It's actually good governance. Because if you have good governance in place, you are making sure that poverty level is reduced. You are making sure that employment is there. Making sure that people who are ordinarily wandering, aimlessly and then finding crimes attractive will find something to do it. So good governance is at the heart of it, and of course, we should be able to think. See, there's a nexus between good governance. Already, okay, put it this way: there's a nexus between bad governance and spike in crimes and criminality. Because it is bad governance that bring about irritability, bring about desperation, bring about destitution, bring about hardship, hunger, poverty, and these are the things that predisposes a man to seeing crime as attractive venture. So if you handle all those things, it's clear that you have solved the problem head on. So like the CDS said, dealing with this internal security challenge we have, 30% is what you can use kinetic effort to do, but the remaining 70% is where good governance comes in. So, starting from the federal to the subnational to the local government area, we must emphasize the need for good governance. There must be paradigm shift in the way we deal with the resources at our disposal as government public officers. We must look at the poor ones who are, who cannot feed. It is when this hunger persists, it is when this destitution persists that an ordinarily comported human being will find crime attractive. So in that sense, would you actually blame him? The state has failed. After all, the whole essence of governance is welfare of the people and security. So if you deny them those, you expect, of course, what you don't expect. So these are the issues, the clear issues, and I think that time has come for our leaders to think through this.
All right, Comrade, do you see funding as a challenge? How do we address the issue of funding?
Funding the security agencies of funding what?
Did you get my question?
I didn't get you.
The issue of funding, how do you see funding as a challenge?
Funding is always a challenge, yes, but the problem I have is that even the ones you have, how are you appropriating them? How are you deploying the funds you have? What are your priorities? What do you consider priority? Is building 21 billion naira worth of VP building a priority? Is acquiring state-of-the-art SUVs for the senators and all that a priority? Is have you seen governors in our states moving like emperors, moving like monarchs? You have hundreds, you have uncountable number of SUVs.
Convoy of about 20
those SUVs. How do you afford those SUVs? How do you maintain those kind of lifestyle? Meanwhile, a lot of people are living without food at their tummies. So these are the things we're talking about. So when you say funding, we have funding is naturally always there, even in developing climes. Funding is always an issue. But the challenge is how do you deploy the one you have? So we must be intentional about how we deploy our funds.
All right.
So that we get to cater to every segment of the population. Yeah.
All right, Comrade Chidi Omeje, security consultant. Thank you so much for your time with us on Journalist Hangout on Sunday. Appreciate your perspectives. Thank you so much.
You take the opportunity too. Thanks.
Thank you. See you.
All right, gentlemen. You've heard him. I think his main concern is with governors behaving as emperors.
I understand his concern. That's what has been delaying it for so long, because people believe that that governors are so powerful in their states that when you now give them that that means of coercion, they can use it against people, especially political opponents. But we're not going to look at that. Sometimes everything that is the world is about good and bad sides. There is nothing that doesn't have disadvantages. So we will try to live with that, because when we look at what we can achieve with state police when it comes to insecurity, that outweighs how eventually we will get to a stage where a governor will not be in a position to misuse the police. That's why I said the federal government is controlling police and we are still living. So I think police, state police, is something that is desirable. We should look at it. And I think we're better for it.
Adeoye, you also think the benefits outweigh the...
Yeah, actually, Chidi Omeje raised very important issues, difficulties, but there are solutions. Police is about crime investigation and law enforcement. So if the state governors are using those, can use state police, they are also using federal police, even as we speak, to perform, to do also, and they can use talks anyway. Some policemen, governors, armed thugs. So we should not be under that kind of fear. I think we should look at the advantages which far outweigh, the disadvantages.
All right, gentlemen, great conversation today. Let's go home. Thank you so much, Adewale Adeoye. Mayor Akinfelu, thank you so much for your time on the program, and thank you very much for watching, everyone. That's all on Journalists Hangout on Sunday. Join us tomorrow for the regular episode of the program at 5 p.m. You can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode tonight at 11:30. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.